using structured outputs with an Azure OpenAI GPT-4o model that I had deployed. And that was pretty cool. We were able to get structured outputs and use them to extract entities out of GitHub issues, PDFs, my blog posts, all sorts of different things. So that worked well. Today, I just want to make sure it works with GitHub Models and get all the same examples working with GitHub Models. So let's try that out. All right, let me make this bigger. Okay. All right. So goal for today is to use these GitHub Marketplace models, and these are freely available for anyone with a GitHub account to use. There used to be a waitlist for it. There's no waitlist anymore. So you should all use that. Assuming you all have GitHub accounts. If you don't have a GitHub account yet, it's a good time to get one. All right. So what I'm going to do, so right now, you can see here that I create this Azure OpenAI client, and I'm using keyless authentications. I don't have to log into that. If I wanted to use GitHub, so I'll just start at the top here and just say OpenAI host equals GitHub, and just do a little if. Okay, so if OpenAI host equals Azure, then we're going to do all this stuff. But if not, if it equals GitHub, then we're going to do, oh, Ryan says, it's hard to hear me. Yeah, let me check my mic, thank you. Yeah, it is super wrong. I got it. And yeah, thank you. Like, why is this not working? All right, I'm now unmuted and should be using the right audio now. That's looking good in my audio settings. All right, is it all good, Ryan? There we go. All right, sweet. Thank you. It's nice to actually have someone watching to let me know. Otherwise, I would have just spoken to my earpods the whole time. So to use OpenAI, first of all, I've got GitHub Copilot, which loves to make stuff up when it comes to the OpenAI SDK, because it really does not have any idea how the OpenAI SDK works, especially the new version. So what we have to do for using GitHub Models is that we need to set the endpoint, and we need to set the key equal to our GitHub token. So I already have examples where I do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up that repo where I do it, and I'll post this in the chat too. So what do I do for GitHub? I usually, okay, so there I put it in the .env, but if we look at the actual, what the code looks like for GitHub, this is going to be our client. All right, so client equals OpenAI, and we have to set the base URL. So basically, instead of going to the usual base URL, which is either openai.com or this, .azure endpoint for Azure, it's going to go to this models.inference.ai.azure.com. And then it's going to get the key from the GitHub token. So this is your personal access token. And I'm actually in a code space right now, so this should already be set in my code space. If you're not in a code space, the way to get your token is you go to your settings, and then you go to way down at the bottom to developer settings and personal access tokens. And then you say like, oh, new token. And then you two-factor, and then you can get a new token. You can see I was making a bunch last week for my GitHub Universe demos. But since I am in a GitHub code space, this GitHub token should just always exist. It should be in every code space without you having to do anything, which is one reason why I like to use GitHub models in code spaces. It's so easy. All right, so then So we should go down this path now. So let's go ahead and just try that out. So then it's going to fetch a GitHub issue, and then it's going to make a call. Okay, so we also have this model. So what I'm going to do up here is set like a model name variable. So model name equals. So for Azure, I'm going to get it from there. And right now for GitHub, I'm just going to set it here. So model name, we'll do GPT-4o. So both of these are using GPT-4o now, but this one's an Azure deployment and this one's a GitHub model. All right, so let's try that out now. Okay. Aha. Okay. All right. Well, first I want to make sure, the next thing I'm going to do is put some logging in to make sure I'm using the right path. So I'll just say logging.info using a GitHub hosted model. And then this one's going to say using a Azure hosted model. Okay. All right. So that just makes sure that we're going down the right path. Okay. And we get an error before. Of course, the other thing we have to see is what our logging config is. So it's actually config to warning. So we're going to change it to info so we can see those. And we've got Gilberto here as well. Hello. So let's see. So it says using a GitHub hosted model, and you can see it actually does a post. This is a log from the HTTPX package. It does do a post to where GitHub models are hosted, and we get this 400 bad request. Okay, so now we'll actually look at the error. So it says response format value is JSON schema is enabled only for API versions 2024 801 preview and later. Okay, so that's interesting actually, because notice that I didn't set the API version in this client, and I usually get away with that when I'm using the OpenAI client. You can see that here. I didn't set a version there, but because we are using this more, this very recent feature, it looks like we do need to explicitly set that API version. So this is interesting because normally I only think of us having to set API versions when we're using Azure OpenAI. And here I'm using the OpenAI client. I wonder if I should actually use the Azure OpenAI client, because in some way this is, there's slight differences between the Azure OpenAI and the OpenAI client. But either way, it looks like we need to specify the version. Okay, and now it says got an unexpected keyword target. Okay, all right. So actually, let's go ahead and go to the marketplace models, because I'm curious what it would say for which client to use. So if we go here, OpenAI GPT-4o, and then I say API key, and we go to OpenAI SDK, and do they use, so this currently uses the OpenAI client. I'll have to talk to the team and say, I think maybe we need to be using the Azure OpenAI client, because that's the only one that lets us set an API version. Unless there's some other way of doing this, but I'll chat with that. Okay, and then we got 404 not found. I wonder if this is going to be possible. Okay. All right. So the issue is that we need to be able to set the API version. The OpenAI client isn't letting us do that. I'm trying to remember if there's another hack we can use. All right, let me see if they say anything. It's possible that they haven't tried the structured outputs here. So can we do API version? API version. Well, we do have function calling here, but that's been supported for a long time. All right, so I actually think I need to chat with the GitHub Models team about this, because what I'm seeing is that if we use the OpenAI client, which is what's recommended, then we have to pass in the version. The other thing we can do is we can try using the Azure AI Inference SDK. Let me go in Python, okay, which is like a different SDK. So let's say Azure AI Inference. Okay, so this one's a different SDK. This one's from Azure. And I wonder if we're going to have more success with this one. So I'm going to add this to my requirements. Okay. And it's really, really similar to the OpenAI SDK. It's very much inspired by it, but it's a little bit different too. So I'll go ahead and let's see, bring in all this stuff here, right? So I'll say like, okay, if we're using GitHub, then instead we're actually going to make this. All right, so model name. Yeah, so that's the same endpoint, right? So here we pass in the GitHub token, okay. And then our completion call also is going to look different. I'm seeing if they have a structured output example here already. No. So what we're going to find out is if we can use this Azure AI Inference SDK with structured outputs. All right, so messages. All right, we would have to have some way of specifying the structured output. So I'm going to look here. Oh, this is a crazy. Okay. Let me go ahead and look at the GitHub for the Azure AI Inference SDK. Okay. Is it underneath? Okay, it's underneath the Azure SDK for Python. All right, so let's see if anybody has filed an issue about this, because we would need to have some way of passing in the class that we want to use. Okay, so I see tools, I see temperature, clock completion, iterable, blah, 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 blah. I don't see a way of specifying the class. All right, so what it's looking like is that we just can't use structured outputs with GitHub Models, and maybe I'm the first one who's tried this, so I will chat with the team after. So what we can try to do, so that there's something useful to do on this stream, is that I did want to try doing structured outputs with images. So let's see. Let me just make a new example, right? So question is, can we combine structured outputs with images? So let's do image extractor.py. All right. Okay, so this time I'm going to load. All right, we're doing Azure OpenAI. So this one is from before, where we were loading in a PDF and parsing it. So let me go ahead and grab an image. Let me upload an image here. Let's see. All right, just do a random. Let me go to my Vision repo, because that has some good images in it. Notebooks and Chat Vision. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pull some images from here. Okay, I like this one. I wanted to try to see if we can do like a graph analysis. It'll be sad if this doesn't work too, but okay, so here's an image. This is an image of a graph. So let me go ahead and save this graph tree cover. Okay. All right, and then I'll go ahead and upload it to the repo, graph tree cover. Okay. All right, so we can get rid of, all right, so we're gonna also grab the code for downloading images and parsing them. All right, so open image, import base64, okay. All right, so this functionality here is going to open a file name and then return the image as base64. So that's useful. And then here, instead of doing this, we're going to say like base64 image, and we're going to do the graph tree cover. Okay, and then let's just do something real simple to start off with, just because we don't know if this is going to work. So we're going to say graph-based model, title, description. Okay. So this is the structured output that we're trying to extract. Is we're just trying to get a title and a description of the graph. So some of it, like it might actually grab the title from the image itself, and the description it will probably make up. Okay, so then the content. All right, so now we need to pass in this image. And this is my question is, can I combine the structured outputs with the image capabilities of the model, right? So our user message is going to look a little bit different. Instead of just being text, it's going to be an object, right? So what you can see is, let me get the whole, this is the whole user message here. Okay. All right. So there's the role user. How could I make the, okay. So we're going to say, extract information about this graph. And then we're going to pass in that base64 image URL. Okay. All right. And then response is graph. And then we get it back and we validate the response. Okay. So let's see if this is going to work. I might need to do I might need to re-authenticate. Yeah, I do need to re-authenticate. So I'll just go ahead and re-authenticate to AZD so that I can use my keyless credential here. So I'm not using keys. I'm using keyless, which does mean I need to be logged in. And of course, we have a very secure process for logging in. So now I need to use my pass key, and then the QR code shows up. I don't know if that's how that interacts with screen sharing, if that's okay. I'll ask about that after too. Okay. All right. Am I trying to sign in? Yes. Okay. Okay. So now I am logged in. So now I can try running it and see if this is going to work. And it did work. Yay. Okay. Well, at least we got one thing working. So what we can see, so let me go ahead. Now that it worked, let me show again like what we did. And let me try and clean up this code a little bit. Let's go ahead and put this directly in here. Okay. All right. So, at the top, we just set up our Azure OpenAI connection, and that's to one that I deployed yesterday. Then we have, this is the pedantic model, right? So this is a pedantic model, and this is defining the schema of what the large language model should output. So we're saying, hey, you should give back something that has a title and a description. And we can also give more information for these things. So here it could actually say field and then say, it's funny, I can describe description. So I can say a 1-sentence description of the graph, because you can see it was quite a long description there, right? So then I just need to import field. All right, so this is how we can say these are the fields we want, and then this is the description of the field that we want. Now I can do more stuff. Now that I know it works, I want to find out what's the x-axis, what's the y-axis, what else? Okay, so we got an x. There's 2 y-axes. I don't know how they're going to do that. This is kind of a hard one to do. Legend. The legend could be a list of strings. This is actually a really tricky one to do. I don't know. Is it, so this, let's see. This is definitely the x-axis. I guess that there's are 2, so 1,000 square kilometers. Oh, because one is kilometers, one is miles. All right, we'll just see how it deals with that. Okay. All right. So now we've got a little more stuff in here. Then this is our function for opening up a local file and returning the base64 data URI for it. This is our call to the OpenAI SDK to get a structured output. So here we're using the parse function instead. And we have to say response format equals graph. So that's how it knows you're doing structured outputs. Then we get back the output, which starts off as like a dictionary, but if we do graph.model validate, and this is from Pydantic as well, it will turn it into a Python object of the graph class. So then we can, access the title, description, all that stuff. All right, so let's try that out. Okay, while it's running, I also want to see if there's other cool, these are just all various use cases for images, right? So we have graph analysis, insurance claims processing. I guess you could just say like rejected, appliance help, captioning, table analysis. Table analysis is kind of interesting. We might try that one after. All right, so here we got title, global tree cover annual loss, description. Okay, so that was a nice one sentence description. So that's why I wanted to be able to, tell it how long that description should be. For x-axis, it said year 2001 to 20. Oh, interesting. I figured out that this is like 2001-ish, I guess, or maybe 2000. I don't know. And then it ended it at 2020. Well, I think it really actually goes beyond 2020, but it doesn't say that. So that's, tricky, and we could try and give it. Now for y-axis, it said 1,000 square kilometers. I think that's fair because this is in the usual place of the y-axis, right? If we'd said y-axis was a list, maybe it would have given us both. And then for legend, we got it. Boreal, temperate, subtropical, and tropical. Okay, so did a pretty good job with that. Let's try a table analysis next. So we have this table here, which is really just a ping of a PDF. So let me go ahead and download this and then upload it to my code space. All right, so we'll just say nursery page 0. And let me go ahead and upload it here. All right, and I'll make just a new file. Image, we'll just say table extractor .png. No, .py. All right. So this time we're going to have it open up the nursery page 0.ping from the tables. Okay. Here's the table. Yeah, we already have a system message here, so it's unclear. Like, I guess we could just do the image URL. Okay, and just keep the system prompt, extract the information from the table. All right, so what do we want for the table? So it's kind of, so maybe we can get it to actually output it as a list of objects, right? Where each one would be a row. We could do it that way. We could also split it into like annual, bulbs, and grasses. All right, so let's do it that way. So we'll say, plant inventory, base model, and we're going to have annuals as a list of plant. And let's see, annuals, bulbs, and grasses. Bulbs is a list, and grasses is a list of plant. And then for plant, we're going to do another base model. So this is, we have like a nested model, right? And so the columns are species, common name. Okay, species, common name, quantity, size, price, quantity, size, price, county, and notes. Okay. And we'll see that is, can we do this optional string? I'm saying I don't work with Pydantic a lot. We'll just say it's a string. Okay. All right. So let's see how that works. And I always want to say that when we're doing, when we're using structured outputs, the first time that we use a new schema, it does take a long more time. Okay. So it says, all right, so we actually got a Pydantic error. So part of it is that I didn't pass in, I need to update my all model file fields required if annuals is not. Okay, so it's saying, I just wrote my Python wrong. So we should do like this. Okay. All right. So the type annotation, these are all type annotations, so they go after the colon. All right, so the first time that we run structured outputs, it's always going to be slow for a new schema because it's actually caching the schema. So it says in the blog post about it, it says like, okay, it can take even up to like a minute for the first time you're running a schema. So that's something to keep in mind, is that if you are using this with something user facing, you probably want to warm up the schema and try and make sure that it's actually not going to be that slow for a user that's experiencing it. All right, let's see how this works. Look at all this. This is so cool. Wow. So plant inventory. Okay, so with the annuals, we got, let's see, I should like split screen this somehow. Let's see. Move this over here. Let's see how well it did. Move this over here. Okay. Scroll down. All right. Annual. So we got common tarweed, primrose, poppy, California, purple gleam, tarweed, Lindsay star, slim marsh, vinegar weed. It did such a good job. My gosh. I haven't found any narrow. Yeah. And it got everything correct. It's so good. I wish I knew exactly how it worked, but it looks honestly completely correct. Like obviously I'd have to do a more thorough check to see, but it did a really, really nice job. Right. So, we can call this like image scraping or whatever, but this seems like potentially a really, really useful tool. And it's something I was saying, like I already use something like structured outputs. I use function calling a lot in order to, extract stuff from GitHub issues. But, increasingly it's, probably something I'll use more, and just to make it easy to do, kind of entity extraction, scraping, that sort of thing. All right, this is really cool. All right, so I think that's all we're going to be able to see today. Since I wasn't able to get GitHub Models working, I will talk with the team afterwards about the version issues and see if we can get a fix for that. And then hopefully I'll have this all pushed. So let me make a repo. So I've got a repo for this, but I need to actually make a branch for everything. Live stream exam. I need to clean this up a lot, but let's see. Just want to get it into a repo already for people who want to see. So examples from live stream. All right, I just want to make sure there's nothing private in here. Let's see. I think I deleted my receipt. Okay. All right, so that's good. I'll pull that in. And then let me go ahead and make this repo public so that you all can see it. Change that to public. Now that has something useful in it. Okay. Make this repository public. Got to do my two-factor. And all right, is this public now? Yeah, this is public. I'll probably end up moving this to Azure samples at some point once it's all cleaned up. But here it is for now. So if you want to try it out, you can try it out and see what kind of use case it's good for you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.